On October 19th, 2023, USS Carney fought off missiles and drones for 10 hours straight in the Red Sea, using a hull built back in the 1980s. How did a Cold War destroyer end up being replaced by the U.S. Navy? Hit subscribe and let's find out. Back in the early 1970s, Admiral Elmo Zumwalt Jr. was serving as Chief of Naval Operations, and he came up with an idea that would end up shaping the entire fleet for decades. The idea was simple. No Navy on Earth, not the Soviets and not the Americans, could keep building an entire fleet of expensive top-of-the-line warships forever, but a fleet made entirely of cheap ships wasn't the answer either, because none of them could handle the toughest threats out there, so the Navy split the difference. A small number of powerful, expensive ships backed up by a much larger fleet of cheaper ships that were simply good enough to get the job done. You can actually see this play out in real numbers. The Navy built a handful of Virginia-class nuclear-powered cruisers as the expensive option, each one running around $300 million at the time. Then it built a much bigger fleet of Perry-class frigates as the affordable option, at roughly $50 million a ship. The Ticonderoga cruisers followed that same formula a bit later, built to carry the brand new Aegis combat system. But the Navy still needed a cheaper way to get Aegis onto more hulls, and that need is exactly what gave birth to the Arleigh Burke class. Here's the part almost nobody realizes, though. It wasn't naval engineers deciding how small this new destroyer would be. It was politicians watching the price tag. Congress wanted the new ship at least 50 feet shorter than the Ticonderoga, capped at a maximum displacement of 8,300 tons, armed with one gun instead of two, a smaller missile load, and no helicopter hangar at all. And yet, the Navy still expected this stripped-down ship to operate alone in rough seas for weeks at a time, at serious speed. So who do you name a ship like that after? Admiral Arleigh Burke earned his nickname during World War II when he accidentally led his destroyer squadron straight into a Japanese minefield. When Admiral Halsey radioed asking what exactly he was doing in there, Burke simply answered 31 knots. The name stuck for life, but building a real ship that could actually hit that kind of speed, while boxed in by every one of those political limits, that was going to take some serious engineering creativity. How do you make a ship fast when politicians have already told you it can't be as long as it needs to be? Navy designers got creative. Instead of relying on hull length for speed and stability, they boosted the gas turbines from an originally planned 80,000 shaft horsepower all the way up to 100,000, and designed a completely new hull shape with a wide, flaring bow. The result was a short, stocky, oddly proportioned ship that sailors nicknamed the Arleigh Brick. It wasn't elegant, but it hit every speed and stability number the Navy needed. Here's where the designers refused to compromise, though, and it's the kind of detail that ends up saving lives. Even under pressure to cut weight and cost, the Burke was built with an all-steel superstructure, not the lighter aluminum used on ships like the Ticonderoga. That decision came from painful lessons already learned. A fire aboard the USS Belknap had melted its aluminum structure almost completely, and the Royal Navy's experience during the Falklands War showed just how badly aluminum ships handled battle damage. Steel weighed more and cost more, but steel could take a hit and keep fighting. And on a warship, that trade is everything. But the hull and the steel weren't what made this ship legendary. What really changed the game was what the Navy packed inside it. At the time, older Perry-class frigates and Spruance-class destroyers were already falling behind, unable to handle the next generation of anti-ship missiles. Weapons that would fly lower, faster, and with a smaller radar signature than anything the fleet had ever faced. So what was the Navy's answer to a threat its own ships couldn't see coming in time? The answer was the Aegis combat system, and it changed naval warfare in three specific ways. First, the Spy-1 radar Older ships used a rotating radar dish that could only update a target's position about once every 4 seconds. SAPI-1 was a phased array radar, meaning it could scan every direction at once, locking onto an incoming missile up to 4 times faster than the old spinning dish. In the early 90s, a fast, low-flying missile like an Exocet would only get picked up right around the radar horizon, about 12 miles out, giving older ships one shot to stop it before it got too close. Just one. Aegis ships got several chances instead. Second, the vertical launch system, known as VLS. Older launchers like the Mark 13 and Mark 26 had to physically turn toward a target, pull a missile up from a magazine below deck, then fire, a process that limited them to about one missile every 9 seconds at best. The Mark 41 VLS threw that entire process out the window. Missiles sat ready inside individual cells built right into the deck, letting the ship fire roughly one missile every single second. And third, Aegis tied everything together, radar, weapons, sensors, and communications, into one automated system that handed commanders a reaction time older crews could only dream about. When a missile is closing in at supersonic speed, how much do a few extra seconds of warning actually matter? Ask anyone who stood behind a console watching a blip get closer and closer. The first USS Arleigh Burke was commissioned on July 4th, 1991, and here's the twist nobody saw coming. This entire class had been designed to fight a massive naval war against Soviet bombers and submarines, and that war never happened. The Soviet Union collapsed just months later. For most weapons programs, timing like that is a death sentence, a ship built for an enemy that no longer exists. So what actually happened to the Burke class instead? It adapted. Its radar-tracked aircraft, its sonar-hunted submarines, its missiles-shielded carrier groups, its Tomahawks reached targets hundreds of miles inland. In 1993, the lead ship deployed in support of operations over Bosnia, a mission nobody could have predicted when the design was first drawn up. That flexibility became the pattern for everything that followed. Then came October 12th, 2000. The USS Cole pulled into Aden, Yemen for a routine refueling stop, and a small boat loaded with explosives pulled up alongside its hull and detonated. The blast tore open a massive hole in the ship's side. 17 sailors were killed, dozens more were wounded, and the ship was left flooding and on fire in a foreign harbor. But Cole didn't sink. It stayed afloat because of the same damage control training and compartmentalized design baked into the class from day one, and it was eventually repaired and sent right back to sea. Quick question for you. If your ship had a hole torn through its hull by something as small as a fishing boat, do you think it would still be sailing today? Drop your answer below, and if this video is holding your attention, go ahead and hit like and subscribe now. It genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this. That single attack changed how the entire Navy approached port security for years afterward. Just a year later, everything changed again. After the September 11th attacks, Burke destroyers, including USS McFall and USS John Paul Jones, were among the very first ships firing Tomahawks into Afghanistan. In 2003, USS Donald Cook became the first surface combatant to launch Tomahawks in the opening days of the Iraq invasion. And the original USS Arleigh, Burke itself joined strikes in both wars. A ship built to stop Soviet bombers was now launching precision strikes deep into landlocked countries nobody involved in its design had ever planned for. All the while, the ship kept physically evolving too. Flight 1 established the basic design. Flight 2 brought upgraded missiles and combat systems. Flight 2A went even further, adding dual helicopter hangars for 2 MH-60 helicopters, massively extending the ship's reach for hunting submarines and tracking surface threats. Later ships had their funnels buried inside the superstructure to shrink the radar signature even more. Piece by piece, flight by flight, the ship kept getting stronger without anyone needing to start from zero. By the 2000s, the Navy actually believed it had found the ship to replace the Burke. It was called the Zumwalt class, built around a strange tumble-home hull, integrated electric propulsion, heavy automation, and a radar signature smaller than a fishing boat. The plan called for dozens of these ships, so what actually went wrong? Costs spiraled completely out of control. Requirements kept shifting under the program's feet. The specialized ammunition for its advanced gun system became so expensive the Navy could barely afford to buy any of it at all. What was supposed to become a fleet of over 30 ships shrank down to exactly 3. After spending nearly 10 years and close to $10 billion trying to make Zumwalt work, the Navy quietly reversed course and restarted Arleigh Burke production instead. The ship built to replace the Burke ended up needing the Burke to bail it out. And the Burke kept proving exactly why it deserved that trust. It came back as Flight 3, the most advanced version of the class ever built, packing a new electronic warfare suite, the Aegis Baseline 10 combat system, and a brand new Spy 6 radar, roughly 30 times more sensitive than the old Spy 1, able to detect an object half the size at 4 times the distance. USS Jack H. Lucas became the first Flight 3 destroyer to join the fleet. Then the real combat started piling up fast. In October 2016, USS Mason came under 3 separate cruise missile attacks near Yemen and successfully defended itself using a mix of missiles and electronic countermeasures. Days later, USS Nitsa launched Tomahawks against the coastal radar sites behind the attack. In April 2017, USS Ross and USS Porter fired a combined 59 Tomahawks at an airfield in Syria, timing their flight paths so both ships hit their targets at the exact same moment. But nothing compares to what happened in the Red Sea starting in late 2023. On October 19, 2023, USS Carney fought off waves of missiles and drones for 10 straight hours, ending that deployment with 51 total combat engagements against drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles, the most intense sustained combat by an American warship since World War II. Other Burkes joined in too: USS Laboon, USS Mason again, USS Thomas Hudner, and USS Gravely, all defending commercial and military vessels moving through the region. Then, in April 2024, Carney and the original USS Arleigh Burke helped defend Israel from a massive Iranian missile attack, with the lead ship becoming the first American warship ever credited with intercepting a medium-range ballistic missile mid-flight. A ship commissioned back in 1991 was still setting new combat records more than 3 decades later. How many warship designs can say that? So if the Burke keeps proving itself in combat again and again, why is the Navy so determined to replace it? The answer is buried inside its own success. Every single upgrade added over the decades needed something the ship simply didn't have much left of: space, weight, and electrical power. New radars needed more electricity. New computers needed more room. Electronic warfare gear generated more heat that needed cooling. Ballistic missile defense demanded more processing power. And future weapons like lasers will need even more power than any of that combined. Naval engineers have a name for this built-in growth room: the Service Life Allowance, meant to give a ship enough extra space, weight, and cooling to absorb new equipment across its lifetime. A warship is generally expected to serve around 40 years, letting an entire class stretch out to about 75 years total. That same kind of allowance is what let the old Spruance-class destroyers eventually get upgraded with Tomahawk missiles, and it's what let the Ticonderoga cruisers get built right on top of that same hull design later on. But on the Burke class, that allowance is completely gone. You can see it clearly in the Spy 6 radar itself. The Navy originally wanted a full 20-foot version to meet future warfare requirements. But even after enlarging the deckhouse as much as physically possible, Flight 3 could only fit a 14-foot version. There's simply nowhere left to put anything bigger. The hull that started out 50 feet shorter than politicians would even allow has now completely run out of room to grow. So what comes next? That question is exactly why the Navy started developing DDGX, the next generation guided missile destroyer. The plan keeps everything that already works, the Flight 3 combat system and its proven missiles, and builds it onto a bigger hull with an integrated electric power system that leaves real room to grow this time, instead of arriving already maxed out on day one. But DDGX has moved painfully slowly. As of mid-2026, the Navy still hasn't locked in a firm construction start date, with current estimates pointing to construction beginning around 2032 and the first ship possibly not arriving until sometime in the 2040s. And just to complicate things even further, the Navy's most recent shipbuilding plans introduced yet another idea, a massive nuclear-powered battleship called BBGX, meant to handle heavy long-range strike duties alongside smaller future frigates that would take over lower-end patrol and escort work. There won't be one single ship that replaces the Burke. Its job is being split up across an entire new generation of vessels instead. As of today, the Navy has delivered 74 Arleigh Burke destroyers, with 25 more under contract and 12 currently under construction, and the lead ship is set to hit 40 years of service in 2031. Flight 3 ships are expected to stay in service into the 2060s, so the Burke isn't disappearing anytime soon. It's just finally run out of room to keep growing, and for the first time in almost 40 years, the Navy has to figure out what actually comes next. The Arleigh Burke class was never supposed to be this good. It was built to save money, and it ended up becoming the most successful destroyer the Navy has ever put to sea. If this gave you a new appreciation for the ship still carrying America's fleet today, hit like and subscribe. We cover stories like this every single week.